Hi guys, we're gonna be doing a little grafting today with these Copiapoa cinerea seedlings that we have here. And people ask me all the time, what the purpose or what is the benefit that you get from grafting your cacti? And it all comes down to speed of development. The only reason or the biggest reason why you would want to graft your cacti is so that they will develop and mature faster, so that you're able to get them to bloom and you're able to get seed out of them at a quicker rate than if they were on their own roots. Also, another reason why you would want to graft cactus, for example, these Copiapoa or Lophophora or Ariocarpus, it's because they're very hydrophobic. They're not tolerant to a lot of water whatsoever, and they're very prone to rot. So you graft them to a heftier cactus, like for example this Myrtillocactus Geometrizans here, and what you're doing is basically using its root structure to push or to power the scion, which is a plant that you're gonna place on top. And what that's gonna do is basically you're not gonna run the risk of these guys rotting as much as they would if they were on their own roots. So those are basically the two reasons why you would want to graft your cactus: is if you want it to grow faster and develop faster, or if you have a very sensitive species that you don't want to run the risk of allowing it to rot, you would graft it onto like I said, this Myrtillocactus Geometrizans, or you can also use something like a San Pedro cactus. Is also a very common rootstock because it is very hefty. Like I said, the roots are very strong on that one. It tolerates quite a bit of moisture as opposed to or compared to a Copiapoa or an Ariocarpus, and it's also a fast growing cactus. That's also something you want. Alright, so let's get into it. Before anything else, what you're gonna need for this is obviously a cactus to graft, like these Copiapoa cinerea seedlings we have here. You're also gonna need a cactus to graft onto, or a rootstock. That's the cactus that's gonna be in the bottom of the graft, and that's the one that's gonna be doing all the heavy lifting for the scion, which is gonna be the part or the cactus that you're gonna be placing on top. In our case, the Copiapoa cinerea seedlings. You're also gonna need some rectangular. I like to use pantyhose, ladies' pantyhose. It's really good. I cut it into 4 by 2 inch rectangles, and you're gonna see how we're gonna use those to secure the scions onto the rootstock to make sure they're able to bond and dry up correctly before something knocks them over, like the wind, or they just fall off. You want to secure them onto the rootstock with something so that they're able to heal correctly. You're gonna need a clean, sharp blade. I already went ahead and cleaned this one with some rubbing alcohol, but if you haven't done that, I would suggest you always clean all your materials before you start your graft. That's gonna cut down on disease and failure due to disease and other pests that they could happen due to transfer of bacteria that you can have on your blade. And you're also gonna need also a clean, fine brush like this one. And this is optional. The brush and the sulfur fungicide are optional. I like to use them because I live in Miami. We have 100% humidity here about most of the year, and for that reason I like to be very safe and be very careful when it comes to rot and also rust, which is something that happens to grafts for some reason. I've had rust attack a lot of my grafts, and it's caused them to fail. So I found that using sulfur fungicide, I don't have that issue as much. So I recommend having a little bit of sulfur in hand all the time, not just for your grafts but for cacti in general. It's very good if you ever run into like a rot issue. You can always cut out the rot and place some sulfur on the wound, and what it does is it helps the cactus heal faster, and it keeps all sorts of fungus and disease and stuff away from the wound, so that you don't run into any problems. Alright guys, so when you're ready to cut, what I like to do is I like to start off with the ugliest seedling first, because if this one fails, I'm not going to be that upset. And usually the first one is not the best one, so I try with the ugliest seedling like you see here. We're going to try him first. So you're gonna want to make every one of your cuts has to be 100% horizontal. You don't want your lines to be crooked or slanted, because you want these guys to have the best sort of seal in between them. So you want both of them to be pretty horizontal. You're gonna go ahead and cut the roots off of the scion like that, and then if you want to put it against a flat surface to make a secondary cut to make sure that it's 100% horizontal, That's perfect. There we go. And then we're gonna proceed to cut the rootstock. Again, horizontal lines. You don't want your lines to be crooked or slanted. And then we're gonna remove these angles. What we're trying to do is remove the aerials on the sides, because those aerials are gonna try to push branches, and you don't want the rootstock wasting any of its energy into making any branches. You want it to grow the scion. So we're gonna go ahead and place this guy up here, and there are vascular rings in the center of these stem guys. It's just like a little circle where you see all of the veins that take moisture up and down the stem. And you don't want to line those up between the scion and the rootstock. You kind of want them to be overlapping like this. You don't want them to be lined up 100%. You want them to be overlapping, okay? So you place that guy on there, you press them a little bit so you squeeze any air bubbles that might be in there. And then you grab your stocking, and carefully and not too tightly, you want to pull him down a little bit and attach the pantyhose with the spines. You see how the spines are holding it down? And you want to make sure you don't squeeze it too much, because the pressure will kill the scion over time. And that's it. So once you have that, what I like to do is just get a little bit of our sulfur, which is right here. You dab a little bit on the tip of the brush, and I just dab all around the top. And that's gonna make sure a little bit of the sulfur goes through the pantyhose and onto the open wound, and that's gonna help heal that open wound, and there will be no infections on there. So that's it. That's the first one. Then we're gonna go to the second ugliest seedling, which is this one. Get this guy ready. Actually, let's use this rootstock here. Again, we're gonna make a horizontal cut in this guy. There we go, that's pretty straight. And if you know what you're doing, guys, if you've already tried grafting before, you can actually graft these roots onto another rootstock, and it will actually push out pups. So you might want to try that. It's a lot of fun. It's weird, so I don't know. I tried it with a Lophophora, and it was pretty cool. Again, you want to remove the aerials from all the ribs around where you're going to place your scion. You don't want any branches coming up like that. And then we can give this guy one more cut, just because if you wait too long, that cut begins to dry up, and you actually want these to be pretty wet when they touch each other. That's the way that they connect the best. We're gonna go ahead and place this guy on here. Put him back on there. You wanna apply a little bit of pressure. You're gonna see air bubbles come out the sides. That's good. And then we're gonna gently but firmly attach him. And you have to get all the sides evenly, or else, like you saw, it's gonna tilt to a side and fall off. You don't want that. You want them to be really straight on there. That's good. Looks pretty attached on there. We're gonna get a little bit of sulfur, dab it on the paintbrush, and just apply a little bit of sulfur on that open wound. Make sure we don't get any mold or rust or anything like that. Right, it's 2 down. I'm gonna do this one last. This is the nicer of my seedlings, so I wanted to do him last. I'm actually gonna save the rootstock from this one, and I'm gonna graft the rootstock of this as well. It's a pretty big seedling. Just get in there so you can see it. There we go. Make a straight cut over here. Remove the aerials from the sides. That's very important. If this rootstock were to push a branch very close to the scion, it could actually push the scion right off. You don't want that. So we remove the aerials. We make one more cut on this guy to make sure he is nice and moist when we make that junction. There we go. Place them on there. Make sure the vascular rings are not lined up but actually overlapping each other. Get our pantyhose. Remember, this has to be very carefully, firmly, but gently. You don't want to squeeze that scion too tight on the rootstock, but it does have to be firm enough to hold them in place until it heals. There we go, it looks good. You get a little bit more sulfur. And this last step, guys, the sulfur is up to you. If you live in a not so humid environment, you might be able to get away with not even doing this. If I do my grafts in the spring, for example, or in the fall when the humidity is like under 70%, I don't need to do this at all, and I never get any failed grafts because of rust or mold or anything like that. But it's the middle of the summer right now here in Miami, and humidity is about 98%, so we're gonna be safe. So there you go, guys. Those are the 3 grafts. I like to use Myrtillocactus Geometrizans because I've tried it before. It always works great for me. I've had really good results, but it depends on your environment and also your growing or your culture techniques, or how you water, where you have your plants, etc. So go with any rootstock that works for you. If for example, if you use San Pedro, you have a lot of San Pedro cacti in your grow area and it's thriving, it's growing well, then by all means go ahead and use San Pedro. Or for example, some people like to use Cactus. So whatever is growing best for you, just go ahead and use that rootstock because it's gonna help your scion grow the fastest and the better. I just like to use Myrtillocactus because it works for me, but by all means, just try different things. I've tried San Pedro, I've tried Cactus, I've tried Trichocereus, other kinds of Trichocereus, but the best that I found for me is Myrtillocactus Geometrizans. So these are some other grafts that I've done using these same methods, and I just wanted to show you guys sort of what they're gonna look like in a couple of months if they take, and if they don't, if you get failed grafts, do not be discouraged. It happens to me all the time. From every 10 grafts that I do, let's say I get 8 or 9 that are good and 1 is always failing. And like I said, depending on the humidity, I might get more failed grafts. So don't get discouraged, keep trying. This is not 100% science that it's gonna work every single time. You're gonna have to try it and practice and get over those failures, because the more you fail, the more you're gonna learn. And like always, guys, if you have any comments or questions, drop them down below in the comment section. And if you don't subscribe already to my channel, please hit that subscribe button and the little bell for notifications. And also look us up on Instagram. We sell plants, seeds, and we're always sharing all the information we can about caring for these beautiful plants. And see you on the next video.